Okay, so what is happening today is I am going to be making a tap board so that while we are all kind of stuck at home, we can still be practicing while we are at home and not be risking scuffing up our home tiles or wood or slipping while we're trying to also practice our tap dancing. So I'm going to try to go through this step by step on what I am doing, and then hopefully you will be able to make this at home for yourself. What I did is I went to Lowe's and I purchased a 2 foot by 4 foot piece of maple, and I had them cut it in half for me, which they do for free. Then I picked up some liquid nails, a hinge, some foam brushes, sandpaper to prep the wood, and sealant to also protect the wood, because I'm not going to put any sort of laminate over the wood. The maple is hard enough, so it should be able to withstand the foot pounding. But I will put a sealant on it because it does scratch pretty easily from what I've researched. And then the final thing I purchased were some foam gym mat flooring, like the foam tiles that fit together, which I will attach to the bottom of the piece of wood so that it doesn't slip. There's some cushion underneath it. The hinges I bought so that I can attach the two pieces that I cut in half and then fold it so I can store it away instead of one big piece. So that's pretty much everything I have. Now just follow along to see how I do it. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to sand the edges, because there are still some kind of rough edges on this, which I want to make sure when I'm grabbing it or moving it around, I'm not going to get a splinter in my finger. And just to make sure everything's smooth, and also where there was the sticker for the price tag, I'm going to kind of sand that off and make sure it's completely gone. So first step, sanding. I got a 180 grit sandpaper. It's pretty fine. I think this will be okay for now. If I need to get something a little more gritty, I will, but for just the edging to get as smooth as I want it to be, I think that the 180 is fine. So it is actually gorgeous right now in South Florida, so I am going to take advantage and sandpaper outside and also not get my floor totally dirty. And this 180 grit's doing a really nice job as I'm sanding here and I put my fingers back over the edging. It is completely smoothing the way I wanted it to, and I am confident I will not be getting any splinters anytime soon. I sanded the edges and the top layer where I am going to actually be standing, and what I'm going to do now is put a protective coat on top, and I have the polycrylic protective finish in clear matte that I'm going to use to just cover the entire tapping surface. But I'm going to use a foam brush to put the layer of protective sealant on top, and it says you want to sand it first, so I did a nice sanding with a 180 grit. It suggested 220, but I'm okay with that. I figure it'll probably fill in a few little spots. And I have my Picasso in the background who might share her paintings in the end. So when you open this up, it is a like milky looking substance or liquid, and I'm just gonna get at it. So pretty thin. As it pours out into my bowl, you can see how drippy it is, almost like it looks like whole milk. And it does have a pretty strong odor, so I would likely suggest a mat, but since those are hard to come by right now, I'm gonna make sure I have a fan on and that my windows are open to kind of keep the air circulation going. Okay, as we are now going to continue with this project, I did do a few layers of the sealant, and so I would paint on the sealant, let it dry for a few hours, and after that kind of sand it to smooth it out again, and then rinse and repeat. So after I'd sand it, I'd wipe it off, let that dry, do another coat of the sealant, dry, sand, wipe, dry, sealant, dry, sand, wipe, and now it is done. So the final step that the next step that I'm going to do is I am going to glue these little wood pieces onto the underside, because I had come to like a bump where I wasn't sure how I was going to attach the hinges to the actual piece of wood without the foam getting in the way when it would close and making it just stay kind of open. One of my friends, her husband does a lot of engineering projects, and it was pretty simple, and I don't know how I missed it myself, but he suggested putting these little spacer pieces, attaching it to the underside, and then actually attaching the hinge onto the wood, and then that will raise the hinge up so that the foam will now be at the same level. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to glue those wood spacers down, clamp them, let them dry a bit, and then I will actually drill the hinges onto those spacers and then glue down my foam. And I'm just using an Elmer's wood glue to attach it, and then I just put a piece, some glue all along the strip, and now I am clamping it to the board to let it dry for a few minutes, probably about an hour, and then I'm going to actually drill the hinges into the board. I am now trimming my piece of foam that's going to be glued on the bottom. Pretty much I'm able to just cut off all of the little puzzle ends, and then on the one side I will actually have to kind of trim it a little bit lower, but in general this single square fits on a 2x2 surface. So I'm just trimming the little ends off right now. I've got a bunch of little pieces, and then I'm going to glue it and let it rest overnight. I'm going to be using some liquid nails to glue this down. I'm just pretty much going to squirt it all over the surface, and I'm going to be gluing what would be considered the top side of this foam to the bottom side of the wood, so that the side that is the normal bottom side of the foam is still the bottom of the entire piece. So it says it needs a little bit of working before you actually lay it down, and so now I'm just going to apply this all over the bottom, brush it out with my little foam brush, and then put the foam down. Then I'm going to find some of my extra large books I have still laying around and just let it sit overnight. Okay, so now I'm going to place this. Some books and then some sparkling water cases instead. And I will glue down this side and put the microwave over here, and then everything will be glued. And the reason why I'm turning this right now is because I am just hand chiseling a couple little grooves into this spacer board to receive the hinge. And so it'll kind of lay a little more flush against the wood on the underside. What I've done is I've now drilled some holes into the little indentions I created for the hinges. I used, which one? The 1/16 drill bit to make little tiny holes that'll be just slightly smaller than the screws I'm using to put in the hinges. So now I'm just going to attach the hinges and everything should be finished. Okay, so right now this is how it closes. It is not completely flush, but I am taking into account this, the attachment for the hinge that I needed to recess into the wood, so it won't quite allow the foam to go completely flat, but this is much better than having an entire long piece or something that opens only, or closes only to there. So I think this is actually done. So here is the finished dancing board as I flip it over, and then I'm gonna get this out of the way and place it down. So when I am on here, I think this is pretty great. I will be getting my shoes on soon so I can see how this all works, and not too bad for a first attempt. I'm looking to see a little bit of the wobbliness, a couple spots where it's not quite level, but I think over time that can probably be fixed. I'll put some books or something on it to kind of push it down. But here is the finished piece that I've been working on for the past few days, the protected top wood. It does fold, I can put it away. Nice sound. I like the finish of the raw wood, and it does have a slight sheen to it in the sun or on the reflection. So I will see you all soon for our online classes, and keep tuned to see if I'll be providing some just tap combos, little dance combos on my channel. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.